Hello everyone, welcome to your partner in education, Agile Rank Mate. Today, in this episode of IIFT Insights, we're going to be looking at some sample questions of logical reasoning. So we're really looking at some questions and how to solve them effectively. So let's start off. This is the directions for today's set. 3 classmates, X, Y, and Z, live on the AN jar mark, yet they do not know the house number of each other. The houses are numbered from 1 to 99. Since Z is a regular student and attends class sincerely, his notes are very good and updated. X and Y are not so regular, therefore they desire to meet Z at his home individually. One day, X asks Z, "The number of your house in which you reside is a perfect square or not?" Z replies. Then X asks, "Is it greater than 50? He again replies. X thinks that he got the answer and decides to visit Z. When X reaches the address, he realizes that he is wrong. He then thinks over it again and is not surprised as Z answered only the second question honestly. Y, not aware of X's conversation, asks Z 2 questions of his own. Y asks, "Is this house number a perfect cube?" Z replies. Then Y asks, "Is it greater than 25? He answers again. Y thinks that he got the answer, but upon reaching there, he finds the address incorrect and realizes that Z answered only the second question honestly. If Z's house number is less than the house number of X and Y, and the sum of all 3 of their house numbers is twice the perfect square of some number, then answer the following questions." So technically we have 4 questions for this particular direction. The first one is to find out X's house number. The second one is to find out Y's house number. The third one is to find out Z's house number. And the last one is to find out the sum of house numbers of all the 3. So how do we solve this question? Well, let's look at each paragraph, shall we? If you look at the first paragraph, X, Y, Z live somewhere. They do not know their house numbers. Houses are numbered 1 to 99. Z is a regular student, attends class sincerely, notes very good. X and Y are not so regular, they want to meet Z. So there's not much information that's useful in the first paragraph apart from building the context. So for paragraph 1 is mostly about context, but it does give us one valuable nugget of information. That is that the houses are numbered from 1 to 99. So whatever stuff that we're going to do for the following paragraphs, we have to make sure that it's between 1 and 99. Alright, so let's look at paragraph number 2, the part where X asks him the questions. X asks, "The number of your house in which you reside is a perfect square or not?" Z says. Then, "Is it greater than 50? Z again replies. X thinks that he got the address to visit Z. When X reaches the address, he realizes that he is wrong. He then thinks over it and is not surprised as Z answered only the second question honestly. So, here X thinks that he got the address. Now, in order for that to happen, if Z answered no for any of the questions, then he would have to ask again. However, since X thinks that he got the address, we assume that Z answered yes to both those questions. Alright, so Z answers yes to 2 questions. So that means, according to X, the house number of Z is a perfect square which is greater than 50. So X assumes that either 64 or 81 is the house number of Z. Now, if we look back at the paragraph, we saw that X thinks he knows the answer. So, since there are 2 options and X thinks he knows which house Z is in, we can deduce that he must be living in either 64 or 81. So since according to the clues he got two options and he believes that he knows the answer, so he must be living in one of the options in order to make that incorrect. So the other one would be what he assumes is Z's house. So in paragraph 2, the right statement is that Z's house number is greater than 50, while the rest of it is based on the assumption that both answers are right, and we look at X's guesses, which is 64 and 81. And from there, since X thinks he knows the answer, he must be living in either 64 or 81. The same process is repeated in paragraph 3. Y is not aware of X's conversation. He asks two questions. Is your house number a perfect cube? Then, is it greater than 25? He answers again. Y thinks he got the address, so same idea. However, the address is incorrect, so he only answered the second question honestly. So, in paragraph 3, so since Y thinks he knows the answer, that means Z had to answer yes to both questions, which means according to Y, Z's house number is a perfect cube greater than 25, which in this case leads to two options, 27 or 64. Now, since Y thinks he knows the answer, we must assume that he must be living in either 64 or 81. So he must be living in either 64 or 27, actually, not 81, because 81 was X's guess. Here we're looking at Y's guess, so that would be 27 or 64. So since Y has to live in one of those houses, then he would know that the other option would be the correct answer, so he would go there. Then he would see that no, that's not Z's address. And that's when he realizes that Z only answered the second question correctly, which is Z's house number is greater than 25. Now, let's look at paragraph number 4. Now, in paragraph number 4, it gives us some information. Z's house number is less than the house number of X and Y, and the sum of all three of their house numbers is twice the perfect square of some number. Then we need to answer the following question, the four questions that follow. So, for paragraph 4, Z's house number less than X's or Y's. Also, sum of X, Y, and Z is 2 times a perfect square. Now let's look at some of the deductions from all the paragraphs. Now in paragraph 2, it says Z's house number is greater than 50. And in paragraph 3, it says Z's house number is greater than 25. Both of these both of these statements are correct, because if a house number is greater than 50, then it has to be greater than 25. So from paragraph 2, Z's house number is greater than 50. Now from P4, we saw that Z's house is less than X's or Y's, which means that X and Y both have house numbers which are greater than Z's. So if you look at the options for X, X has 64 or 81, so he must be living in one of them. Both of them are about 50. However, if you look at Y's, one of the perfect cubes is 27 and the other perfect cube is 64. So as you can see, 27 here is less than 50. So therefore, since y has to have a house number greater than z's, then we can only assume, then we can conclude that 64 is y's house number. Which is ironic, since 64 is also one of the options for x. That means we can conclude that x's house number is equal to 81. So x's number is 81, y's number is 64. Both of these numbers are greater than z's house number, which is greater than 50. So now we will look at the last clue that we got from paragraph 4 and fashion it into a statement. So x's house number 81 plus y's house number 64 plus z's house number, which we don't know yet, is equal to 2 times a perfect square. Now, as you can see, we haven't got everything, but we do have enough clues and enough deductions to move on to our questions. So, first question, x's house number. As you can see, x's house number is 81. That was one of the 2 options given for it. So option B is the right option. 81 is the correct house number. 64 is incorrect because that's the house number for y. 49 is less than 50, so it doesn't fulfill the conditions, and cannot be determined is incorrect because we found out that 81 is correct. So x's house number is 81. What about y's house number? Second question is to find out y's house number. And if we look at our options, you can see that our notes, we see that 64 is correct. So option A, 64, is the right option. B is incorrect because that's the house number for x. 36 is incorrect because it's less than 50. So option D is also found out to be incorrect because we did determine that y's house number is 64. So the right option is option A. Y's house number is 64. Now let's look at the third question. What is z's house number? We haven't found that out yet, but we do have a clue. 81 plus 64 plus blank gives us 2 times a perfect square. Alright? So all we have to do is substitute the options into this particular equation and we'll find out the right option. So let's start off with 85, shall we? 81 plus 64 plus 85. That gives us 80 gives you 160, 5 plus 1 gives you 6, 6 plus 4 gives you 10, so 80 plus 10 is, 160 plus 10 is 170, 170 plus 60 is 230. Now 230 divided by 2 would be 115, which is not a perfect square. So therefore option D is incorrect. What about option C, 25? 81 plus 64 plus 25. 81 plus 64 is 145, plus 5 is 150, plus 20 is 170. So therefore, this would be 85 would be its, half, and it's not a perfect square. So therefore, option C is incorrect. What about option B, 65? Well, if you look at option B, that will be 81 plus 64 plus 65. So 145 plus 65, that will be equal to 210. So when you split off 210 to 2 parts, it'll be 105. And 105 is again not a perfect square. So option B is incorrect. The right answer is option A, 55. If you add 55 to it, then you get 145 plus 55. So that's 150 plus 50, which is equal to 200. 200 is 2 times 100, and 100 is the square of 10. So therefore, the right answer is 55. So 55, option A, is the right option. Now, we have the last question. what is the sum of house numbers of all the three, x, y, and z? So we have 100, 200, 128, and cannot be determined. So as you can see, 81 plus 64 plus 55 gives you 200. So therefore, option B, 200, is the right option. Option A, 100, is incorrect. It's the perfect square whose double turns out to be the sum of the house numbers. 128 is also incorrect because the sum is not equal to 128. 128, it's actually equal to 200. So therefore, option B is the right option. That means option D cannot be determined, would not make sense. So option B, 200, is the right option. So the sum of house numbers of x, y, and z is 200. So that concludes this episode of IIFT Insights. We hope you found this episode interesting. For more of our useful and interesting content, don't forget to subscribe to Agile Rankmate, your partner in education. If you want to get more updates about IIFT or any of our other examinations, then please don't forget to hit the bell icon present below the video and set it to all. So until the next webisode, take care, stay alert, bye-bye for now.